Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to share with you my observation of the clock test as I witnessed it being administered to my wife by her primary care physician. Witnessing my wife's inability to draw a clock and tell time was the most surreal, mind-boggling moment of my life. The results of this test were a starting point to her understanding of Theresa's condition and provided a path forward to receiving a diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's disease. Now, I have spoken about the clock test in a few of my older videos, but I wanted to dedicate a whole video to the topic today. The story begins in October of 2018. I called my wife's physician to make an appointment on her behalf. I explained to the office staff that Theresa was having trouble completing tasks that used to be familiar to her. Here are a few examples. She was having trouble sending text messages and finding contacts on her phone. She struggled with cooking and following recipes. I also noticed she was having trouble expressing her thoughts, keeping commitments, and multitasking. Her handwriting began to change, and she even got lost driving to places she was familiar with, such as her dentist, the same dentist that she had been going to for a very long time. Lastly, it seemed like her time management skills were really slipping. She was always late for appointments. If she had a hair appointment at 4 p.m., she wouldn't leave the house until 4 p.m. Now, these events happened gradually over time. But when I began to think about them in a cumulative manner, I knew it was time to see the doctor. And on the day of the doctor's appointment, Theresa was upset with me. She didn't think that she had a problem and that she did not want to go to the doctor. I gently convinced her to come with me, and she finally agreed, however, reluctantly. As I spoke to her physician in the exam room, I could tell that Theresa was embarrassed and ashamed. It was a difficult but very necessary conversation. And after listening to me detail what had been transpiring, Theresa's doctor handed her a piece of paper and asked her to draw a clock and make the clock say 2 o'clock. Now, we take for granted how easy it is to tell time, but there are actually quite a few steps involved. It requires reasoning, memory, visual spatial ability, and math skills. You must know what the longhand and the shorthand of the clock represent and how they're used in conjunction to represent time. For example, the number 3 on the clock can mean the 3rd hour or can represent 15 minutes past the hour. You also must know what each tick mark between the numbers of the clock mean. Someone with a cognitive impairment may not be able to remember all these parameters and how they come together to tell time. This is why the clock test is used as a screening tool for cognitive decline and dementia-related diseases. Theresa took that piece of paper and drew a circle. She placed the numbers 1 through 6 on the clock, but not in the right spots, and did not draw the longhand. I have a prop here showing an example. On this side represents a clock depicting 2 o'clock. We have the 12 at the top of the clock, and the numbers 1 through 12 going in a clockwise fashion. We have the long hand pointing at the 12, and the short hand pointing at the 2. Theresa drew a clock similar to this. She had the 1 at the top, and the numbers 1 through 6, but not quite in the right spots, and she had a single line pointing to the 2. As I observed this, I was speechless. I realized in that moment that my wife had some form of dementia and that her life would be forever changed. I finally understood what was causing all the changes in Theresa. And after that appointment, we went home and I desperately tried to reteach her how to tell time. After several days, I realized that my efforts were fruitless. Her physician referred us to a neurologist for further testing, and Theresa later received a diagnosis of early onset Alzheimer's disease. Now, in 2018, I was 43 years old. I had never heard of the clock test. I never knew that someone as young as my wife could have a dementia-related disease. I've told this story several times over the years, and one comment I sometimes hear is, well, why didn't you get her a digital watch? Well, I did get her one, and she could read what time the watch said. The problem was that she had to be somewhere at 4 p.m. and it was going to take 15 minutes to get there, she didn't understand or have the capacity to calculate that she would need to leave the house at 3:45 to get there on time. Now, I've made this video today to give you real-life examples of cognitive decline and talk about the importance of seeing a physician when you feel something isn't right. The clock test changed our life and set a course for us to find answers as to what was causing changes in Theresa. That's going to wrap up today's video, guys, but before I go, I do have a few channel updates. I'm going to be taking Theresa out of memory care one night this weekend. We're going to go out and have a date night. Most likely I have some pizza, maybe visit the beach afterwards, and while we're out on our date, we're going to be making a short video with her saying hello to all of our subscribers. Also, some of you have been asking if you could send letters or cards to Theresa and I wanted to let you know that I have set up a P.O. box. The address of her P.O. box will be in the description of this video, and you may also find my email address and P.O. box in the About section of our main channel page. As always, guys, thank you so much for your love and support in the comments. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.